Hello everyone. Okay, so in the last session we have learned the first session of the CT scan of brain. In the second one we will go a step further. CT scan of brain cannot be learnt in a single go, and as I've told you, in every topic, in every session, I'm trying to introduce you to some basic concepts, some part of anatomy, normal anatomy of the CT brain, and some pathological aspects, so that you will not feel it's a complicated thing and you will not get afraid of it. So in this session, we'll try to again identify some of the few normal anatomical structures. Second one, we'll try to identify some of the pathological structures, pathological things. In this session, I'm dealing mostly with different kinds of bleeds. And third one, most importantly, you'll be able to come to an idea whether that particular patient is very serious. Does it require hospitalization? Is there any danger to his brain? Is there any signs of herniation? So you will come to a basic idea of how big the bleed is, how dangerous the bleed is. So in this session, we are going to deal with these three things. So let me share my screen. Okay, as I've told you, first I will start with some basic anatomical structures. The way last time I have started, each time I will be introducing you some more few anatomical structures. So this time I will introduce you to some more things. Are you able to see this white line in between the right and the left hemispheres? This white line. This white line divides the hemispheres into right and half. So what this structure? This is a dural structure. And what is the name of this structure? I'll give you 5 seconds for someone to answer. Yeah, this white structure is known as a falx cerebri. So this falx cerebri separates the brain into right and left. And this is the dural structure which is hyperdense. White in color is known as a falx cerebri. And what do you call this fissure? This fissure which separates the right and left part of the brain is known as the interhemispheric fissure. So the interhemispheric fissure is an empty space filled with CSF. And the dural structure lying in the interhemispheric fissure is known as the falx cerebri. This is very important. So this is the surface of the brain. So this surface of brain is not a smooth structure. It's convoluted. These convolutions, this dip, what are these called? These are called sulci. And these elevations are known as gyri. So these are known as the sulci and these are known as the gyri. The mountains are the gyri and the valleys are the sulci. And the sulci are filled with CSF. So this one is very important. This we will try to identify in this scan. So this is a CT brain. So this midline structure dividing into two parts is, can anyone answer? I have told just now. So this white structure which is dividing the brain into two parts is the, yeah. So this white structure is known as the falx cerebri. Now, identify this structure, this arrows which I'm showing, these black things. All are same. All are same. So what are these red structures? Just answer what are red structures and also tell me what are the blue structures. So these are the red structures and I'm drawing the blue structures also. So what are the red structures and what are the blue structures? Right. The red structures are CSF filled spaces which are known as sulci. And the blue ones are mountain-like things, convolutions, which are known as the gyri. Can you identify this biggest sulci? Yeah. Can you identify this biggest sulci? This is very big. This is very prominent on both the sides. What I'm drawing now. Can anyone guess what is this sulci? The biggest one, the last one which I have drawn. What is the biggest sulci which I have drawn called? Yes, that is known as a Sylvian fissure. So in a normal brain, you can identify gyri, you can identify sulci, you can identify the fissures, and most important, you can identify the Sylvian sulcus or the lateral sulcus. Both of you are right. It's either called the Sylvian sulcus or the lateral sulcus. Both of you are right. So I think you can identify this. Now, so what is this? What is the red one? And again, what is the blue one? These are fluid-filled cavities present in the center of the brain. What are these fluid-filled cavities called? So I have highlighted it with the red arrow. So what are these fluid-filled cavities called? And also, these two fluid-filled cavities are separated in the midline by a structure, by midline structure. So what is this midline structure called? So midline structure is called septum pellucidum. And Dr. Sandesh has told is absolutely right. The midline structure is called septum pellucidum. And these water-filled structures are called ventricles. They are the lateral ventricles. So what am I trying to tell you in each one? Can you identify? This is a midline structure separating both the hemispheres present within the interhemispheric fissure, and it is a falx cerebri. So the midline structure is the falx cerebri. Here the midline structure is the falx cerebri. The midline structure here is the septum pellucidum. So what you are saying is the septum pellucidum. So what is these two were the lateral ventricles which I have shown you before. So what is this ventricle called? This is a single ventricle. Lateral ventricles are two in number, but this ventricle which I'm showing this slide is single. It is not paired. It is present in the center of. It's present in the center of the brain. It communicates the lateral ventricle with the fourth ventricle. So what do you call this? Which ventricle is this? Right. This is known as the third ventricle. So this is the third ventricle. So again, the third ventricle is a midline structure. So what I'm trying to tell you is all the midline structures. The falx cerebri is the midline structure. The interhemispheric fissure was a midline structure. The septum pellucidum was a midline structure. The third ventricle is a midline structure. So why I'm highlighting the midline structures, you will know by the end of my presentation. Uh, can anyone try to guess what is this structure? This is present posterior to brainstem. Can anyone try? This is the superior colliculus. So these are the superior colliculi, inferior colliculi. So what do you call this structure? This smiley-like thing. This smiley-like thing. The smiley-shaped structure is known as the quadrigeminal cistern. This is known as the quadrigeminal cistern. Okay. Be fast. These are two basics. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I want you to answer this as a continuity. So these are the three cranial fossae: anterior, middle, and the posterior cranial fossa. So there's a hole in the posterior cranial fossa through which the bone communicates with the spinal cord. So what is the name of this hole in the posterior cranial fossa? This is the foramen magnum. This is the foramen magnum. So first question is, what is the structure which separates the middle cranial fossa from the posterior cranial fossa? This one. This is a bony structure which separates the middle cranial fossa from the posterior cranial fossa. I'm waiting for your answers. Are you answering or not? Yeah. If you don't know, just say don't know, so that I understand that you have attempted, but you know. So this bony structure, which separates the middle cranial fossa from the posterior cranial fossa, is a petrous bone. This is the petrous bone. What is the petrous bone? It is the thing in which your ear is present. So the thing which is present behind your ear is the posterior cranial fossa. The one which is present in front of your ear is the middle cranial fossa. And the thing which is present anterior most is the anterior cranial fossa. So this is the anterior cranial fossa. The anterior cranial fossa is present above your eyes. It is present above your eyes. The one present between your eye and between your ear. So this is the location of the eye beneath it. So between the eye and this is your ear is the middle cranial fossa. And the thing present posterior to the petrous bone is the posterior cranial fossa. Why is this important? Unless you identify this cranial fossa, you will not be able to identify the lobes of the brain. So the lobe of the brain which sits in the anterior cranial fossa is the frontal lobe, and the lobe of the brain which sits in the middle cranial fossa is the temporal lobe. And the lobe and what rests in the posterior cranial fossa, you all know, that is the brainstem and the cerebellum. So let's see. So first identify the petrous bone. Okay. So this is your petrous bone. This is the mastoid hair cells. So the entire thing present behind the petrous bone is the posterior cranial fossa. And what does the posterior cranial fossa contain? It contains the brainstem and the cerebellum. So the one which is present anterior most is the frontal lobe. And the one which is present above your ears, in front of your ears, is the temporal lobe. Am I clear? If you have understood this, just type yes. I will go forward. You should be able to identify the frontal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the posterior fossa contents. That is the brainstem and the cerebellar hemispheres. So answer me, what is this structure present between the brainstem and the cerebellar hemisphere? What is the name of this fluid filled structure which is present? Which is present between the brainstem and the cerebellar hemisphere. We have identified the lateral ventricles, we have identified the third ventricle, and so which ventricle is this? Fine. The one which is left is the fourth ventricle. So this is our fourth ventricle. Yeah. One thing which I want you to see, I will proceed further only when you answer this. Okay. Can you identify this structure? This structure is a cisternal space. We call that one basal cistern. So this cisternal space is the space between the center of frontal lobe, temporal lobe, and this space completely surrounds the brainstem. I will show you in my next picture. So these are known as the basal cisterns. This is the most important thing which I'll be telling you in this entire session. These are known as the basal cisterns. And what is the shape of the basal cistern? There are two portions in it. One portion is a circle which surrounds the brainstem. I will show you in the next picture. So this, and each one has a name which I will tell you. One portion surrounds the brainstem which is circle in shape. And the second one, can you identify the shape which I'm drawing? This is an hexagon. So this hexagon shaped cistern is known as a supracellular cistern. Try to identify this. By the end of this webinar, you would easily be able to identify this one. So again, can you identify supracellular cistern? See, either you can say pentagon or hexagon. So this is the pentagon shaped supracellular cistern. We'll understand why this is very important later. So I've told you what is varus frontal lobe, what is varus temporal lobe. Temporal lobe lies in lower part of the brain in front of the ear. In the upper part of the brain, the part anterior is the frontal lobe, the part posterior is the occipital lobe, and the one in between is the parietal lobe. How exactly will identify? We will identify in the next sessions. But grossly remember, frontal lobe, in the middle parietal lobe, and in the posterior occipital lobe. These things are very important for you. I think every physiotherapist knows what are the basal ganglia, right? So you in this session try to remember these are the basal ganglia. All this structure surrounding the ventricle, we have the basal ganglia. This is the lateral ventricle. Am I clear? So you have identified the lateral ventricle. So the structure surrounding the lateral ventricles, we have the caudate nucleus, we have the thalamus, we have the lentiform nucleus, we have the putamen. So all these are the basal ganglia. So I don't want you to label each and every basal ganglia. I just want you to identify these are the basal ganglia. These are present surrounding the ventricles. So what structures are present in between the basal ganglia? These V-shaped structures. Can anyone tell me what is the name of this structure? This V-shaped structure present in between the basal ganglia. I'll wait for 5 seconds. Dr. Fatima, Dr. Harsh, Dr. Sandesh. Hi, nice to see you all, and Dr. Sahu also. So try to answer what is this structure present between the basal ganglia, the V-shaped structures. Be quick, otherwise you will get bored. So that one is the internal capsule. So this internal capsule is a V-shaped structure divided into anterior limb and the posterior limb, and they are present in between the basal ganglia. So this was the brainstem which I have seen in the posterior fossa containing the brainstem and the cerebellum. This is, should I tell you now? Okay. So I have told you basal cisterns. Now, can you identify this pentagon? I want you to identify this pentagon. These are the supracellular cisterns. This one is the quadrigeminal cistern. This is like a smiley. Can you identify? If I draw a smiley, this is the face. Okay. So suppose these are the eyes. So the nose is formed by the third ventricle. The nose is formed by the third ventricle. And this mouth, the smiling mouth, face, the smiling part is the quadrigeminal cistern. So that is the quadrigeminal cistern. Q, quadrigeminal cistern. The smile, the lips are formed by quadrigeminal cistern. This pentagon is the supracellular cistern. This nose is the third ventricle. Now, we will identify the different kinds of bleeds. So what are the different kinds of bleeds? The bleeds can be extradural, the bleed may be subdural, the bleed may be subarachnoid, the bleed may be intracerebral. So in the next 20 minutes, you will identify the different types of bleed. And second one, what you will be telling me is this particular bleed very big? Is it life-threatening or not? So this is the target for today. First, before you will be able to identify the bleed, I want you to identify the membranes. So there are three membranes over this skull, over the brain. The outer one, what are the three membranes? So we have the dura mater, dura mater. We have the arachnoid mater, and we also have the pia mater. Okay, so let me highlight with three different colors. So what is the one which is shown with blue? What is the thing which is shown in green? So second one was the green one. And what is the one which is shown in red? So this membrane, what is this green color membrane? And what is this red color membrane? So what is the blue color membrane, which is the outermost? What is the green color membrane, which is between outer and inner? And what is the red color membrane, which is innermost? So as Dr. Harsh has answered, the green color one is the arachnoid matter. The red color one is the pia mater. And the blue color one is the dura mater. Two questions. Where does CSF stay? In between which two membranes? And what is that space called? Where does the CSF stay? What is that compartment of the brain where the CSF stays called? What do you call that space? Yeah, Dr. Harsh has answered. That is the subarachnoid space. Second important question which I want to ask. This is our sulci. So what I'm showing is the sulci. So which membrane dips into the sulci? Dr. Fatima has told subdural space. No. CSF lies in the subarachnoid space. It lies between the arachnoid matter and the pia mater. Am I clear? Dr. Fatima, if I'm clear, just answer yes. So it's not subdural membrane, it's the arachnoid membrane. And Dr. Sahu has told it lies between dura and arachnoid. No. CSF lies between the arachnoid membrane and the pia mater. So the space between the arachnoid and the pia mater is known as the subarachnoid space, and the subarachnoid space contains CSF. The membrane which dips into the sulci is known as the pia mater. CSF also enters into the sulci. So suppose the blood is in the subdural space. I'm not typing it, answer. Suppose the blood is in the subdural space. So I'm speaking of subdural hematoma. Will this hematoma enter into the sulci? Yes or no? Subdural bleed, will it enter into the sulci? Yes or no? So answer subdural bleed, yes or no? No, right. As Dr. Harsh has told, subdural bleed doesn't enter into the sulci. So I've told you CSF enters into this sulci. So does a subarachnoid bleed enter into sulci? Does a subarachnoid bleed enter into sulci? Subarachnoid bleed is SAH. So does an SAH enter into sulci? Yeah. Subdural bleed, no. And SH, subarachnoid bleed, yes. So this is very important. So whenever you see blood in the sulci, patient has subarachnoid bleed. So you can identify sulci, identify the cisterns. If there's blood in the sulci or the cisterns. Cisterns are a kind of sulci. So you are dealing with subarachnoid bleed. So what is the name of the bleed between the bone and dura? Bone and dura. So this is the dura mater. So this is the bone. So the blood between the bone and the dura mater is known as the extradural bleed. So the blood outside the three membranes is known as the extradural bleed. And the blood between the dura mater and the arachnoid mater is known as the subdural blood. The blood between the pia mater and arachnoid mater is the subarachnoid bleed. So let's make it clear. So this one is between the dura mater. This is the dura mater. So this is lying between the bone and the dura mater. So this is known as this extradural bleed. In this session, I want to remember one important characteristic of the extradural bleed. What is the shape of the extradural bleed? I'm pretty sure all of you know it, but type it. So what is the shape of an extradural hematoma? This is basic. Every one of you have to answer, know it, and what is this shape of? Shape of a cell. Okay. Anything else? It's not sickle cell. Dr. Harsh has told sickle cell. See, this is not this shape of a sickle cell. This is the shape of the bleed. But sickle cell shape is this one. No, this is a sickle cell. So extradural bleed looks like this one. So it is not sickle cell. Okay, I will give a hint. We say it as biconvex, concavo-convex. So is extradural hematoma biconcavo-convex or biconvex? Dr. Fatima, Dr. Sahu, Dr. Harsh, I'm waiting for you. Moon shape is again concavo-convex. Dr. Karthik has told moon shape. This is moon. This is not moon shaped one. Dr. Sujan told biconvex. That is what is the answer. I don't have a pen, so I'm writing on it. I want every one of you to type. This is biconvex. Biconvex is EDH. Biconvex is similar to your eye lens. It looks like our eye lens. It looks like a contact lens. Anything looks like your contact lens is known as biconvex. Dr. Madan, type it biconvex, not convex. Both the shapes are convex. So it looks like your contact lens. Technical term is biconvex shape. So extradural hematoma is biconvex and looks like your contact lens. I want every one of you to type. You should not forget this sentence throughout your life. So this is the answer. Biconvex, which looks like our contact lens, is extradural hematoma. I want every one of you to type. Yes, Dr. Madana said biconvex. I'm waiting for Dr. Harsh, Dr. Karthik, Dr. Sujan, Dr. Fatima. Uh, Biconvex is something which is bulging on both the sides. See, anything which looks like A is biconvex. Anything which looks like a banana is concavo-convex. Something which looks like a moon is concavo-convex. Okay, let me come back. So, shape of our contact lens is biconvex. Mm, I will try to take help of internet and see if I can explain you. I'm pretty sure that it's not clear to all. So what is convexity and concavity? Let us see. So okay. So let us take a curve. So I have taken this curve. So this curve has two surfaces, right? So the surface which is bulging, so the one which is on my left side is known as a convex surface. The one which is inside is known as the concave surface. So do you understand what is convex surface and what is concave surface? The one which is inside. So when you take this curve, the one which is inside the curve is known as the concave surface. And the one which is outside the surface is known as the convex surface. Yeah. So the one which is on the right side of your screen will be concave. This is a cave, inside the cave. The one which is outside is the convex. So now let us come to our one. So we are basically thinking of two things. So let me draw a shape. Okay. So difficult for me to draw. Okay. So anything of this shape are able to see. It's difficult for me to draw actually. So anything of this shape has two convex structures. So this one we call as biconvex. Am I clear? So this is biconvex. Yeah, ball and socket joint of shoulder is a concave or convex. So how does a concave or convex look? As Dr. Karthik has told, yeah. So anything which looks like our eye lens, our contact lens is biconvex. And what is the shape which I'm drawing in red color? One surface is bulging, one surface is caving in. Something which looks like a banana. So what is this shape called? So answer, what is the red color one called? What is the shape of the red color called? Something which Dr. Karthik has told. The ball ends are concave or convex. So what you have to remember is, so so what you have to remember is, so shape, two things. I'm typing again. Extradural hematoma is biconvex. Subdural hematoma is concavo-convex. Am I clear? You have to remember this. And how do I remember? This now I have told you EDH is biconvex, ST convex, it's very easy. But in real life, when you say, it's always confusing to remember. So how do I remember is, so extradural hematoma starts with E. Subdural hematoma starts with S. In EDH, both the curves are to the same side. So I remember extradural hematoma, because it starts with E, both the curves are to the same side. So I remember it as biconvex. Whereas subdural hematoma, one curve is onto one side, the other curve is onto the other side. So I remember it as concave or convex. Yeah, Dr. Fatima will show you what is STH. But this mnemonic, try to understand, only then you will remember it for your life. Extradural hematoma starts with E. In E, both the curves, the upper curve and the lower curve are on the same side. So we call this one extradural hematoma is biconvex. Whereas subdural hematoma, when you divide S into two parts, upper part of S is on one side, lower part of S in the other side. So subdural hematoma is concave or convex. So this is how the subdural hematoma looks like. It looks like a banana. Fine. So anything which looks like a banana in a CT scan. Yes, biconvex and double convex are same. As Dr. Karthi is asking, biconvex and these are same. So the shape of a banana, the shape of a moon. MCQ is the thing which looks like a moon or a sickle shape is acute subdural hematoma. So am I clear? We have understood what is acute subdural hematoma. Next we will go. So quickly try to answer this image number 1. So what bleed is this? And actually, I forgot to tell you something. Yeah, most important thing you would have read about midline shift. So midline shift is very important. A midline shift of more than 5 mm is life threatening. So how do you calculate the midline shift? We draw a line exactly in the midline. Okay. So what are these midline structures I have told you? I have told you interhemispheric fissure. I have told you the falx cerebri. I have told you the third ventricle. I have told you septum pellucidum. So all these four structures are midline structures. So in this picture, can you see the septum pellucidum is deviated away from the midline. So the distance between the two midline and the septum pellucidum is known as a midline shift. A midline shift of 1 centimeter, anything more than 0.5 mm is significant, and a midline shift of 1, you can say midline shift of 0.5 mm, half centimeter. Dr. Fatima is right, that's a subdural hematoma. But before that, so any midline shift of 0.5 mm and more is significant. So identify the midline structures and see whether the midline structure is present in the midline or not. If it's more than 5 mm, that is half centimeter, it's serious. So let's see in this picture, is there midline shift or not? So I will draw the midline. So the midline structure seen here is the septum pellucidum. So is there midline shift in this one? Yes or no? Yes. So next 4 or 5 will be questions which you have to answer. I will put you scans. So what will be your entire diagnosis? I want you to type the entire diagnosis. That is, so if this picture I have to describe, I will say this is right-sided. The bleed is white in color. Anything which is white in color is an acute bleed. Anything which is dark, black in color is a chronic bleed. So this is white in color, so this is an acute bleed. So this is right-sided, acute. This is a subdural hematoma with midline shift. So whenever you are telling a diagnosis, that should contain all the four. Side of the bleed, is the bleed acute or chronic? Anything which is hyperdense is an acute bleed, which is hypodense is a chronic bleed. Is a subdural hematoma, extradural hematoma, or a subarachnoid bleed, or an intracerebral bleed. And the fourth one which you have to tell is there midline shift there or not? So let us come to first one. So what is the diagnosis? I'm waiting for your time. So as Dr. Sujan has answered, right acute subdural hematoma with midline shift. Right. Anyone else? Right. So what is picture number 2? So this is the midline falx, and this is the midline. Dr. Right, Dr. Kishan, you have forgot to mention whether it's acute or chronic. Acute is hyperdense, chronic is hypodense. There is a midline shift. I will take Dr. Fatima's question at the end. Fine. So what is now done with first scan? So answer, what is the answer for 2? This is second scan. So what is the answer? What is your diagnosis for second one? I'm waiting for your answers. This Dr. Sujan was the first one. Dr. Fatima was the first one to answer. Acute extradural hematoma, right side with midline shift. Dr. Sujan, right acute extradural with midline shift. Right acute, right. Everyone is right. So this is an extradural bleed. Yeah. One of you try to, every one of you try to answer this. No, no. This is a bleed. Cerebral edema is hypodense. So where is this blood located? Dr. Harsh, where is this located? Is it extradural, subdural, subarachnoid, or intracerebral bleed? We have 4 options. These are the 4 things which are possible. Our fifth one is intraventricular also. Actually, there are 2 bleeds in this one. So what is A? And what is B? Dr. Sujan, you can't answer half. I want an entire answer. Dr. Kishan, you are wrong. It's not an SH. See, these are the sulci. These are the sulci. Sulci is clear. There is no blood in the sulci, so it's not a subarachnoid bleed. How do you identify subarachnoid bleed? When the cisterns or the sulci are filled with blood, it is a subarachnoid bleed. So this is not a subarachnoid bleed. It is not biconvex, so it is not an extradural bleed. It is not concavo-convex, so it is not subdural bleed. It is present within the A is present within the brain. So what do you call this? Intracerebral bleed. So the classical thing which we say, this is a patient of IC bleed, IC bleed. So these are the classical IC bleeds. Yeah, left acute intracerebral bleed. And you people are not telling it's, yeah, left side, it's on the posterior limb of the internal capsule. But again, no one is typing the entire answer. You will have to say, is there a midline shift or not? So left side, intracerebral hemorrhage. Left side, acute intracerebral bleed with midline shift or without midline shift. This is a septum pellucidum. Is in the midline or not? No midline shift. Right. Now coming to B. So where is the blood in B located? I will give a hint. What is this structure? So this blood, this is CSF structure on the right side. So this blood is present on the left side in a similar structure. So what do you call this? A is left. Dr. Fatima has answered. A is left intracerebral hemorrhage and B is left intraventricular bleed. Right. So B is intraventricular bleed. Everyone is right. A is intracerebral bleed, B is intraventricular bleed. So again, this one, I think you have answered this. Yeah, answer this quickly. This is a repeat. Yeah. Now come to this one. Let us say, I will say this is C. So what is the diagnosis for C? This you can't take time. So what is the shape? Does it look like a contact lens or a banana? This thing is easy. You can't take time for this. This is moon shaped. Someone said chronic actually. I will say, see, a part of this is dark, a part is hyperdense. So this is actually chronic with acute. There were two bleeds. Initially patient has a chronic bleed. Now there is acute bleed. We call this acute and chronic subdural hematoma. Right side, fine. This one, I want everyone to answer. We'll call this D. What is answer D? Where is the blood located? What do you call this sister? So answer, blood is located in dash. So the answer is dash. Dr. Hash, yeah, SDH. It's not an SH. Yeah. What is the answer D? Where is the blood located? No. What is this pentagon shaped structure? I've told you. Dr. Sujan, you have said mid cerebral. No. What is this pentagon shaped structure? This is a supracellular cistern. What is this fissure? This is a Sylvian fissure. So the blood is located within the cisterns and the fissures. That is, it's located in the sulci. So what do you call that bleed? This is the Sylvian fissure. So blood is located in the Sylvian fissure. Blood is located in the basal cisterns. So any blood which is located in the basal cisterns and Sylvian fissure is called what? Karthik, that is not central sulci. Central sulci, I will try to cover in the next webinars. I have not taught you central sulci, and that is Sylvian fissure. Yeah, there is 5 seconds delay between what I tell you and what you receive. So I can understand there's a delay. But I'm waiting for the answer for this one. What is the answer D? So answer D, blood is located in the basal cisterns and the Sylvian fissure. And so this is known as subarachnoid bleed. This is a subarachnoid hemorrhage. Okay. So next one I'm seeing. So what is this? So what is the answer for this? An answer for this. Again, the blood is located in the sulci. So the answer for this also subarachnoid bleed. So I think we have I have completed this session. So let me take some questions. So yeah, this was the question which Dr. Fatima was asking. Sir, if there's a midline shift, what are the precautions that has to be taken for the rehabilitation regimen? So usually when you come to the ICU, it's very important that you speak to your doctor, speak to your attending nurses, but usually that doesn't happen. So you are left by yourself that you have to decide whether the patient has a raised ICP or not. So if you happen to see the scans with a midline shift, the patient is having raised intracranial pressure. So if you do anything which increases the intracranial pressure, patient may cone, patient may herniate, and there is a risk of imminent death. So what are the precautions do you take when you see a midline shift? Before I answer that, yeah, I have sent a link there. If anyone wants to speak to me, you can if anyone wants to speak to me, you can click on the link and you can ask your doubts by voice. Okay. So as Dr. Fatima was asking, so when you see a scan with a midline shift, you know that the patient has raised intracranial pressure. So you take all the precautions to prevent and further increase in the intracranial pressure. So what you don't do anything which increases pain. Anything which increases pain will increase the intracranial pressure. If the patient is moving, when there is an increase in intracranial pressure, usually the patient will be sedated and he will be made to sleep happily. But if the patient is irritable, if he is moving, then you inform your doctor that the patient's sedation is not sufficient and you request them to give further sedation. Third one, you immediately raise the head end of the bed by 15 to 30 degrees. This immediately decreases the intracranial pressure. The first maneuver which you do when you find a patient with a raised ICP is raise the head end of the patient by 15 to 30 degrees. Do not do anything which increases the pain. Assess if the sedation and analgesia is sufficient or not. If the analgesia is not sufficient, if the sedation is not sufficient, inform the intensivist doctor or the nurse there that the patient is coming out of sedation and this is not good for him. When you do suction, you are very careful not to increase the intracranial pressure. So these are the 4 precautions which you take when you find a midline shift. Midline shift. So, does anyone have any other doubts? Let me check. Majority of the things in the chat are answers only. Yeah. Does anyone, if anyone wants to ask me a question, they can just click on the link. You'll be able to come online. It just comes like Zoom. So if there are no further doubts, I will end this session. I will request you all to subscribe to this channel so that informing me regarding my further sessions will be very easy, because the sessions I'm not taking every Friday, I'm taking an alternate Friday. So if you subscribe to this channel, the notification comes automatically. If you have any further doubts, do type in the comment box on the YouTube. Whenever I'm free, I will try to answer them. And if you like this webinar, do like this video on the YouTube. Thank you. Thank you all. Good night.